ChannelOneNewsOnline.com. Remember, we've changed the name. So ChannelOneNewsOnline.com, just like CityNewsroom.com. ChannelOneNewsOnline.com. Some of the stories you'll find: Mahama suspends CSADG over use of military officer as bodyguard. We'll go into that story in a bit. Full list of motions accepted by NPP delegates. NPP scraps special electoral college, expands voting base in major constitutional reforms. Tribalism and religious bigotry threaten NPP survival. That's according to Baumia. Mahama cuts sword for Blekusu Sea Defense Project Phase 2. Other stories you'll find: prioritize the youth in party rebuilding efforts. Akufo-Addo urges NPP. Ablekuma North violence will prosecute perpetrators in 2029. That's according to Baumia. Deny early campaigners access to regions' constituencies. Korea Frimpong directs. NDC is a failure. Ghana deserves better. That's according to Apenyo Markin. Don't sideline Akufo-Addo in rebuilding efforts. NDC tells NPP. Come out a stronger opposition after National Delegates Conference, NDC to NPP. 35-year-olds lack experience to guide party youth. That's according to Palgrave. Other stories you'll find: car plows into crowd outside LA nightclub, injuring 30. And there are pictures of the NPP's National Delegates Conference on the ChannelOneNewsOnline.com portal. Other stories: WhatsApp should prepare to leave the Russian market, influential lawmaker says. Former EC boss Charlotte Osei to speak at Prof. J.E.A. Mills commemoration lecture. London to Accra campaign launched to drive UK-Ghana economic ties.
And let me take you to citynewsroom.com. Big story here: inadequate infrastructure hindering Africa's potential. That's coming in from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic. Mahama in the news again as he suspends Director General of the Cyber Security Authority. MPP delegates approved 54 motions. The full list is on citynewsroom.com. Still with the MPP following their National Delegates Conference, the MPP rejected a motion to redefine youth age limit. Crack the whip for party discipline. Baumia urges MPP leadership. Stop internal attacks. That's still the 2024 MPP flag bearer and former Vice President Dr. Baumia telling MPP supporters, we are not a broken party despite 2024 electoral defeat. Apenyo Markin tells MPP, who I must say gave quite an interesting speech in, during the conference yesterday, where he likened or used the MPP as a case study in comparison with Indian, Prime Minister Mr. Modi, from a sort of political outcast to a very important national and global figure. That was quite an interesting speech. Palgrave, who is with the Kennedy Japan campaign team, was on a big issue yesterday, and he says that MPP needs a strong chairman who can speak truth to power. And finally, some entertainment-related news. Ghanaian rapper is in Kumasi, and I'm referring to Sarkodie, as Asante Hene endorses his 2025 Rapperholic concert. So a lot more of that later on the show. Any other big stories?
Right, I'm on graphiconline.com. Some of the stories you'll find on that portal. Mahama breaks ground for coastal protection project to save 5 Volta communities. NPP overhauls Electoral College. See who can vote in its 2026 presidential primary. Other stories that we haven't brought you, President Mahama holds talks with son of billionaire George Soros, Alex Soros. Other stories: without unity, we are just individuals with ambition. That's Apenyo Marking. NPP will return in 2028. Justin Kodia slams NDC over LGBTQ plus silence and job losses. Baumia, Kufuor and Akufo-Addo's legacy will outlive generations. The elephant never forgets. Baumia vows 2029 persecution over Ablekuma violence. stop internal attacks and expose NDC's wrongs, Bamia tells NPP. Other stories you'll find: rebuild and reclaim Akufo-Addo's post-presidency message to a wounded NPP. And Apenyo Martin says the elephant has only stumbled, and they should wait for MPP for 2028 elections.
And let me take you to the newscenter.com. Their editor, Elvis Darko, he has some kind of interesting stories here. So following the MPP National Delegates Conference, Napo has been speaking, and he said, I was brought up in a political aware family. Of course, the story on Apenyo Markin saying the MPP is not a broken party is also here. They have an interesting feature on African military leaders who transitioned into democracy. It comes with a photograph of the late former Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari, our own Jerry John Rawlings, and Rwanda's Paul Kagame. The News Center also has a list on the key reforms the MPP voted on yesterday.
Okay, I'm on gna.org.gh. Some of the stories you'll find there. BOG develops comprehensive framework to guide non-interest banking finance sector. MPP delegates decide on 54 out of 56. National Cathedral President Mahama orders forensic audit of Deloitte and Touche audit report. Interior Minister urges police to ensure violence-free Akwatia by election. Akufo-Addo calls for reconciliation after MPP's 2024 defeat. Let's build a culture of volunteerism among citizens. That's Professor Kakari saying that. And those are some of the stories.
And let me
portal.
take you to the international front, right? The BBC is reporting that Syria struggles to quell deadly Bedouin Druze clashes in the south. Comes along with a photograph of some armed young men. At least 37 dead after tourist boat capsizes in Vietnam. Now, US tech CEO, I'm sure you remember him, the astronomer CEO, has resigned after Coldplay concert Embrace goes viral.
Wow.
I like the way the BBC puts it. So concert embrace. Well, but was it really an embrace?
Yeah,
it was a little more than that.
But it was still an embrace.
Well, it was.
But just a very compromising embrace.
Very intimate as well. So he's resigned. If you go on social media on this particular subject, so many views, so many comments,
So many opinions.
Some have said that, there's a place for standards and all of that, right? But cheating in a relationship should not, or in a marriage, should not lead to job repercussions. Others have shared different thoughts, talking about the morality and his acclaim to principles, right? So that has got a lot of people also talking. Finally here on the BBC, they have a very important environmental story on how the rise of green tech is feeding another environmental crisis. Wow. So it talks about electronic vehicles, it talks about a lot of things. So it's an interesting read for those who are really and deeply concerned about our environment. Is there a good time to delve into the stories now?
Yes, indeed. I'm opening the Mahama suspends CSA DG over use of military officer as bodyguard, and that story is on ChannelOneNewsOnline.com. The story reads, the Director General of the National Cybersecurity Authority, Divine Selassie Agbeti, has been suspended for 2 weeks by President John Dramani Mahama over his alleged use of a uniformed military officer as a personal bodyguard without proper authorization. The suspension, announced in a letter signed by the Secretary to the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, and dated July 15, 2025, follows concerns about potential breaches of security protocol and chain of command procedures. Sources close to the presidency indicates that Agbeti's conduct, particularly involving public appearances with the military officer, was deemed inappropriate and an embarrassment to the government. The presidency in the letter expressed strong disapproval of the incident and signaled that additional disciplinary actions could follow pending the outcome of an internal investigation. This comes on the back of a directive The Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, announced in a post on his official Facebook page on Tuesday, July 15, describing the move as part of the government's broader reset agenda aimed at promoting transparency and responsible governance. As part of our reset agenda to restore discipline and accountability, we've withdrawn military protection for civilians, including public officials, former ministers, businessmen, and women, among others, who are not entitled to it, he stated.
Step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Except that, it's great that the president is cracking the whip or seems to be cracking the whip on some of these things, right? Because if you clearly violate a provision stated by the government, and it's very clear, this government, starting from even before the Blekusu North rerun, right, where the defense minister came out to say that there were not going to be military, manning the polls. Some people hailed the decision and said, oh, of course, it's a step in the right direction because we don't need to, make our military very always in our faces like that. The militarization of our spaces was not the way to go. So people held it, except that others said that if you consider the level of violence we witnessed during the coalition in 2024, maybe a military-police combination was the way to go, and maybe a standby military in case of anything. Because again, we saw how helpless the police were when it happened. But that is hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. So I like that he's cracking the whip. In the past, we saw the military follow the electoral commission. Some of them were carrying bags. I'm like, no, it can't be proper. So it's good that he's cracking the whip. Except that his critics will say that beyond taking a very firm decision on the Cybersecurity Authority CEO to his suspension, it's okay. It's punishment enough, some people will say. But beyond that, we've seen other violations, right? So, for example, Blekusu North election violence. An elderly woman, a former minister of state, was attacked. An MPP organizer was viciously beaten, almost to pulp, right? We need to also see the heavy-handedness of the state in dealing decisively with all that kind of illegalities that also occurred. And I'm sure with that, the goodwill will just keep soaring. But make no mistake, it's proper that this government seems to be, seems to be very firm on making sure appointees are falling in line.
Right. We should consider the military man who sanctioned that officer to,
the CEO.
Yes, to the CEO. We need to find out all of those intricate details.
Yeah, right.
Because you can't just get up and say, you follow me, be my bodyguard. So whoever sanctioned his should also be, meted out the same punishment that the CEO will get from government or whomever.
Interesting.
What stories do you have for us?
And talking about cracking the whip, the MPP is also thinking same or calling for same, because their 2024 election flag bearer, Bawumia, has urged the MPP national leadership to crack the whip for party discipline. Excerpt of the story reads, former Vice President Dr. Mahama Bawumia has called on the leadership of the new patriotic party to enforce strict discipline within the party as it undergoes internal reform. Speaking at the party's National Delegates Conference at the University of Ghana Sports Stadium on Saturday, 19th July 2025, Dr. Bawumia stressed the need for unity, humility, and accountability if the party hopes to regain public trust and return to power. The story goes on to say Dr. Bawumia also urged members to let the national interest guide their action throughout the reforms. And those were the words of the 2024 election flag bearer for the MPP and the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Maybe very briefly, right, because in relation to that, Apenyo Makin also was, I'm sure later on the show we'll get to look into details a bit more. You were there, so I want to really hear your thoughts about how the event went. But Apenyo Makin described the MPP as a party that is not broken, despite the electoral defeat in 2024.
Yes.
Excerpts also read, Minority Leader Alexander Penyumakin has called on supporters of the new Patriotic Party to unite behind a common purpose and reconnect with the party's grassroots as it charts a new path forward. Speaking at the NPP's National Delegates Conference on Saturday at the University of Ghana Stadium, Penyumakin emphasized the importance of unity, discipline, and a renewed sense of purpose within the party. He said that the NPP is not a broken party despite its defeat in the 2024 election. He stressed the need for the party to rebrand itself with results and strong character, warning that internal divisions have been costly. So you get the sense that it's the same theme running through all of the speeches.
Unity.
Unity, let's rebuild, let's go back to the base, the foundation, right? Hopefully, the message resonates with the core of the party, right? So that some of the utterances we've seen in the past and this whole urge to be very critical of a government that has enormous goodwill. We are not saying don't criticize. In fact, in every proper democracy, you need a well-functioning opposition. You need a steady, stable, and, a very credible opposition, right? So it's in their place to point out things that are not going well. If all of a sudden all your communicators are out jumping, less than 7 months, you've not even done a mid-year budget review. The country is hard.
So I think during the NDC solidarity message at the event, they said that they should come out, unite and then come out as a stronger opposition and, stop the bickering and all of that within the party, build their grassroots, build themselves up, and then come out as a stronger opposition for 2028. And you should have heard the resounding boos in the
it was fun to see
it was
solidarity
interesting.
message.
I think it was a very well organized event, even though it started later than was on their sheets. It was supposed to start at 8, 9, but it started around 11ish thereabout. But they still ended on time, which was very impressive for me. Very, very impressive for me. But yeah, we'll talk about this more
later on the show.
A bit later in the show. And so, you want to do another story before we go? Or?
Yes, let me take you to this story on citynewsroom.com, and it's got to do. I wanted to bring excerpts of the motions, right? But we'll do that later on the show. But let me tell you about a sea defense project. On this show, we've discussed a lot about the fact that some of our friends in the Volta region, are suffering from the lack of it. How the tidal waves, was destroying property, in some cases even taking lives, And this government showed a lot of commitment. In the very early days of this government,
Mahama's first administration, yes, I think
even this
mentioned
even this very government, we've seen him very early in this government. I think somewhere in February or March, he went to visit some of these sites. He went to Kita to visit the destruction, remember the Volta regional minister. There was a tidal wave story where the minister even had to go and sleep with those who had been displaced overnight, right? And the politics was that. But it's been a major topical point. And to see that government is showing some actionable commitment to it is welcome. So the headline is Mahama cuts sword for phase 2 of the Blekusu Sea Defense Project. President John Dramani Mahama has officially cut sword for the commencement of phase 2 of the Blekusu Sea Defense Project. The initiative, long awaited by the people of Ketu South, marks a major step towards curbing the devastating effects of coastal erosion that have plagued the area for decades. The phase 2 is expected to extend protective structures along critical stretches of the shoreline, shielding several communities from the relentless tidal waves that have disrupted lives and displaced families. The story goes on to say, Mr. Mahama, who initiated the first phase of the Sea Defense Project during his first term as president, what you were saying, emphasized the urgency of completing this next phase to ensure the long-term safety and stability of the coastal belt. The scope of work under the Blekusu Coastal Project entails the construction of 37 armor rock granites at circa two 20 meters intervals with land reclamation to protect 8 kilometers of the coastline. The project is expected to be completed in 48 months. That's quite a technical end to the story. Hopefully, you're able to get some, persons with deep understanding within the space to explain to us how this is going to look like. But the story is clear. So he started in his first term as president, and after 8 years, he's back to complete it.
Yeah,
but we know the devastation tidal waves has caused in parts of this country, right? And for me, I'm excited that...
Have you spoken to anybody who lives along that stretch before?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the likes of the Member of Parliament for Ketu South, Blajifa Gomashi, the Ketu North MP, Edem Agbana.
We were speaking to some of the indigents there, and when you ask them, so where was your house? They'll point to the middle of the sea. That it used to be there, and this is where they are now.
How they would thought that was where their house was?
Well, it's not a specific point, but they're showing you that that's
down
where it used to be, and then the erosion has occurred, and so they're now all the way on this side. So it speaks a lot. So this will definitely help the people of the Volta region.